Alrighty, good morning, everybody, and welcome in. It's House Edge Live with John from Casino Gaming TV here on Christmas week. Good morning, everybody. California Craps Club is here saying hi, and so is Mr. Randall Hill. Good to have you all here with me. I know it's probably going to be a slow week for the show, but what the hell? Let's have some fun anyway, right? Couple things that are on my mind today. My God, first of all, the football over the weekend was insanity, right? There was. Obviously, we had the Seahawks win on Thursday, which was, I thought, the most insane win. And then you get the Bears-Packers, and then you get what was the one last night? The Vikings, or not the Vikings, the Steelers game. I mean, everything was crazy town the last couple of days. And the refs have got a lot to say about it. It makes you. I know there's no script, but boy, it makes you wonder sometimes. When you watch some of these games, is there really a script going on? College was nuts, and I'm sure, I'd love to have Dejan on here at some point, and maybe even Jacob, to talk about college, because college is a mess right now. And I think, I'm speaking to the choir, you guys don't know what I'm talking about. I mean, you got NIL has destroyed the game for lots of reasons, right? Now the playoff, I thought the playoff was going to be a good idea, expanding it to, giving more teams a chance to play, but then you get James Madison in there, who has no business being in this thing, right? Just getting pummeled, and good teams, Arizona State, Notre Dame, obviously being left out of it. It's just a disaster, right? College football is a complete disaster right now. I think we're headed towards, if I had to predict the future, or the future I want to see, we're headed towards a realignment completely. It's gonna mirror the NFL. Just gonna be regional divisions, and that's how it's gonna be. And it's they got to get the lasso around this thing, because that horse has left the barn, and it is a stampede to destroy what was a really good sport. And unfortunately, college football is unwatchable to me anymore. It's just I don't give two shits about any one of those teams anymore, because they're from one year to the next, it's a completely different thing. I hate it. I used to love college football. I actively hate college football now, and basketball is getting to be the same thing. It's just. Even down to the women's game, it's awful what they've done to college sports. Anyway, we're here to talk about gambling. Oh, I guess maybe gambling comes into that too, doesn't it? So anyway, a lot of stuff going on here, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but we'll get to it. I was talking to Skill and Luck last night over the phone, and I'm going to throw this out here without his permission, and just ask the question, because we were talking about. Bringing Craps Chat back. We've been talking for a long time about bringing back Craps Chat. But here's the thing with Craps Chat. You've got, that Pat's, all the games, right? Man, all the games. So the thing with Craps Chat is this. You've already got casino. We had Craps Chat, right? We were the only ones out there, right? The first year with Jeff and Skill, right? We were the only game in town. So everybody came and watched Craps Chat. It was great. Then, the second year, a little bit of this maybe, right? But then you got, Jeff and Gargoyle doing their thing a couple times a month, right? You got Jeff and Ed doing their thing. You got Casino Tears, which is an amazing podcast. Now you've got Full of Chips, plus the Color Up podcast, right? So you've got Color Up and Jim talking about craps. You got Jeff and Chris and Craig talking about craps or whatever, just general banter back and forth, right? You've got Casino Tears, obviously, every week. They're all, I don't want to say they're all the same, but they're all the same, right? You have the same genre of things being kind of the same show format, I guess, what I'm trying to say, right? So we bring Craps Chat back in that same vein. And last year, Craps Chat was essentially what Casino Tears or what Full of Chips is right now, but with 5 people instead of 2. That's really the difference. What's the thing that's going to make Craps Chat excel or be something different? Because I don't want to come back and just do the same old show, same old format, and just be another cog in the machine. I think we have enough of that going on, right? There's enough. And I think that the guys that are doing their podcasts are different enough to be unique, but we don't need a 5th one, is kind of what I'm saying, right? So there's nothing new in the game of craps, but here's the thing. I think what I love about podcasts is the entertainment value of it. I think most of us are not here to learn something from a podcast, right? What I love about Casino Tears the most is not what they talk about when it comes to craps, right? It's not. For most of us, it's probably not the same. You're not learning most things from that show. What you're loving, at least what I'm loving, is the banter. I love Fran and Ed going at it. I love when Bo Parker jumps in and tries to add some logic to the whole thing. It's the vibe of that show that's great. It's the vibe of the full of chips between Chris and Craig. That's great, right? Jeremy and Jim are trying to bring guests on to elevate the learning a little bit, which is great. I don't think Craps Chat belongs in that space. But I think what we can do, potentially, is interject more debate. We talked about this last year about trying to find ways that were topics that were interesting enough. I don't want to just open up the chat lines and have you guys ask the same old questions. What I want to do, though, is bring like a guest on, like maybe Ed or Jeff, right? And maybe Waylon, all at the same time. And one person says, there's no such thing as a strategy. All strategists are idiots. And one person says, there's no such thing as feel. You got to play a strategy, and have them just fight it out. Like, to me, like a great debate kind of a show. I used to love the Great Debate back in Philadelphia. They had a sports show on that. I would like to bring every week be a really contentious topic and bring two people who I know are diametrically opposed and let them just fight it out. That would be more entertaining. Then you might learn something along the way, but really the entertainment value of having two people who are really opposed talk about it and hammer it out versus everybody just kind of going round table and agreeing with each other, right? And I think that's what kind of brought the show down last year. So that's my idea. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on that. I'll leave the chat open today, of course, and comments later on. If you think it's a good idea, we may just go down that road with that show and just see what that feels like. And anyway, I'm just trying to be a little more creative and buzzworthy with the show. I don't want to go out there and just kind of flounder around and do more of the same, especially when there's really good shows out there doing that stuff. So anyway, that's just kind of where I feel. So good morning, aloha, Vegas crap shooters. Anyway, that's it. Are you all watching Ken do Waylon's the one strategy? Raise your hand in chat if you would play that. Actually, I would like to know. I ran the one, 2.5 years ago. I think Waylon first brought it to me over email. This might have been before he even had his channel. I'm not even sure if he had his channel yet when he showed me the one. And I did it on I lost like 5 days in a row. I lost the whole bankroll. I kept losing. Whatever reason, I caught the bad run that made that thing fail. Anyway, it's an interesting strategy. The math on it makes sense. I know what he's trying to do. The VIG is a problem, as Ken talks about in all of his videos. I don't know. That one, to me, the 4s and 10s run really hot, really cold. And the problem is when they run really cold, your bankroll goes away too quickly. I tend to run like that, where I don't see them for a long time. That one's a tough go. It's fun to watch the rollouts and that, but when I see that Ken's video titles like Waylon's the one, crazy session, Waylon's the one, oh my God, I can't live in that world of super volatility. So when I see that it's going like way deeper, 8, 9, 10 levels deep, I start getting nervous. Anyway, interesting stuff. Go watch it. Let me know what you think. We can actually I'd love to have Waylon on here to talk about it, because I know Waylon does so much work on the math of these things and talk through it. He will tell you, of course, that it's a tough son of a bitch, but all strategies go down. Waylon's not going to ever lie to you and tell you that it won't go down. But I'd love to know the thinking on it, right? And how he got to the point where he is with it. So anyway, I'd love to explore it some more. It could get dangerous. And I saw Ken in the one I watched last night. He had his front bets up to, I think, $800 at one point, right? 800, and 2 and 2 in the back. That's a lot of money for a lot of people, right? And even if you're playing at the $25 or the $10 level, those bets get pretty big pretty quick. Even 80, 20, 20. For most people, $200 on the felt at level 8's a lot to endure when your bankroll is only $1,000. So you just got to think about, again, I love Waylon's thought process on all these things. I love it more on bubble craps than regular craps because of the amount of dollars. You got to evaluate it for yourself. You got to go out and try those things. We say all the time, practice, right? Get onto it. Alrighty, let's go ahead and we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming series. And again, I want your thoughts on it. So we're working through the ABCs of craps. And before I do that, a reminder, a little harsher reminder than Ken says. Ken says to you every day that gambling sucks. Don't make the first bet. I will tell you this. It's more than that. It's more than that. If you're going to go, you got to know this. The casino is after your house. They just are. They only exist to take your money. Now, I granted, every business does, but most businesses, there's a give and take here. The casino's give and take is zero, right? They exist to bankrupt you. That's it. And they don't care. They've bankrupted more people than they care, right? Or if you get good enough to actually win, they'll ban your ass, right? You cannot sports bet past a certain level. You won't be allowed to card count. They put the restrictions in to ensure that you cannot win. It's just one of those things. You have to know this going into the thing, right? Your tools are the bridge. Your tools are your bankroll. A Wayland way of playing needs bankroll, but the bigger bankroll, quote unquote, ensures that you can come out on top, especially at lower limit games with bigger bankrolls. You can almost ensure coming out on top, right? Bankroll is how you leverage your wins. I'm a big leverage player, right? I don't bet big out of my rack. I bet big with the wins. I'll use their money against them whenever I can. And I know it's my money, but I mean, I'll use the wins against them. I will try and lower the house edge of the bets, and not the actual house edge, but the net house edge of the bets with their money. That's how I view bankroll, right? I'm pretty risk averse. I don't go out there with a bunch of money out of my rack. I don't bring $5,000 to ladder up and win $100. I just don't do it. Some people, that's okay, right? If that's your risk level allows for it, good for you. Just go eyes wide open, right? Identify when it's time to leave, have money management and discipline, set a goal, and keep yourself from going on tilt. This is the quote unquote secret sauce. Does not guarantee a win, doesn't even promote a win. It does guarantee if you do this, you will not get destroyed. You won't go on tilt and burn a paycheck or burn a mortgage payment. Matter of fact, you wouldn't bring a mortgage payment with you if you're a bridge believer. All right, there it is. All right, here we go. Let's get into the ABCs of craps, and we're gonna run through. I think we're gonna go through 6 letters today. And again, I'm just trying to get from you if I missed anything. As I go through these letters, here's my ideas of things to talk about through this. If I've missed anything, give me this in the chat. Do a # L or whatever it is, and then say lovely or whatever the word you want me to say is. I'll add it to my list as we go through this thing today. We'll finish the alphabet today and tomorrow. I'm going to take off the next couple days for Christmas, obviously, back next week. And then we'll start the series in the new year. I'm going to start the series for real in the new year. And I was thinking too along the way, the ABCs of gambling is what I'm trying to, and you'll see these are very generic, like limit, know your limits, right? Know the law of large numbers. Understand how loss recovery works. Is it really a trap, right? Loss aversion, kind of like a risk aversion, right? What is your loss limit? What does the long run bias really mean, right? These are very generic gambling terms. I could very easily do the ABCs of craps, the ABCs of sports betting, the ABCs of poker, the ABCs of whatever, right? L ladder. Thank you see, that's what I'm saying, Dr. S. I missed one. Thank you very much. See, I knew I was going to miss something. So as we go through this, right, the ABCs of gambling, and then there's going to be the ABCs of specific games. I can do this forever. Leverage. Thank you, Joe. See me missing stuff? Look at you guys. You guys are awesome. This is why we have a show and we have good friends, right? All right, here we go. That was L. What is next? Next is going to be the M for martingale, which is kind of a ladder. So, Dr. S, what I've done is on the letters where a negative progression makes sense, I've put the thing. So I've got D'Alembert under the D's, right? We got martingale under the M's, but I think laddering in general belongs under L. I think it's a good generic one. Anyway, martingale, money management, max odds, which is all the math guys say you better play max odds or you better not play, right? And we had these conversations all the time. Matter of fact, I had a conversation with a guy. I'm going to try and get Matt from Dice Data to help me out with the math on this one, because I was talking to a guy in chat about the Paroli system, okay, or the 1-3-2-4. Doesn't matter which one. Both of those things use leverage, right? You leveraged wins. You got a flat bet of a quarter. And if you go 4 wins in a row, 25 goes to 50, 50 goes to 100, 100 goes to 200, and you bang out a $400 win, right? That's the Paroli, 4-leg Paroli. I think that, and I made the statement, that lowers the house edge, right? It doesn't really lower the house edge. The house edge on all of those bets is still 1.4%. You can't change the house edge, even when you're completely up in the sky with the size of the bets, right? The house edge is still the house edge. However, the effect of the house edge on you, your first $25 bet carries a house edge of 1.4%, which is about 30 cents or whatever that ends up being, right? Great. They get the 30 cents off the $25. But in the end, And your risk factor is you're going to win $25. You're going to win $25 or you're going to lose 24.30. That's the way that works out, or 24.70, right? That's how the house edge works on a flat basic bet. However, and from a percentage standpoint, it's 1.5%. If you ladder, or not ladder, but if you progress 25 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 200, and you win the $200 bet, you win 400, your net, or your 4 units rather, your net win there your net win is 14 units on that thing. 14 units, but with the original 30-cent VIG, 30-cent house edge of 1.4% on the original bet. The net house edge on that goes down below about 10% versus the same flat bet with max odds in the back. The difference is the max odds come out of your rack. That's a volatility play, whereas the Paroli is not. The Paroli, the 4-leg parlay, it's all using leveraged wins, house money, not coming out of your rack. So the net effect to you, although the house edge is the same on that entire bet spread, right? The net loss to you is still the same 30 cents for a $200 win, or whatever the number of win, whatever that dollar amount comes out to be. So 30 cents off of $25 versus 30 cents off of 200, the percentage goes to almost nothing. And that's why I say max odds is a thing for us to talk about. I want to have a math guy on Craps Chat to talk about max odds versus not. We should have that conversation with a guy who really understands math and is passionate about playing the pass line max odds way. We should have that conversation. That's a great Craps Chat show, right? Anyway, I want to teach on math fundamentals. I want to teach the mental side of the game. I did actually in the Gambling 101 University series, I did 15 shows on psychology. Well-researched shows. I think that deserves replaying. There's your M's. Anything other than on M that I had forgotten, you let me know. And by the way, JR says obsessing over max odds frequently leads to overbetting for sure. And you get into gambler's ruin. 100%. 100%. That's I say this a lot, and I give the math guys, right? I give them a bunch of grief because they're just, most math guys are kind of dicks, right? They just kind of come at it like they come at it like a science guy goes after a flat earther, right? And it's all about, whatever, but I give them shit for that. However, to play a max odds game, you need big balls. You really do. To go $25 and $250 behind the line, not everybody's doing that. It's a high volatility game. It's a high risk, high reward kind of a game. However, in the end, it works out to be a tie. We've done the math, right? A guy betting the flat bet, $25 flat bet forever, and a guy betting 25 with 10x odds forever, they both win and lose the exact same. In the end, there's no difference. In the end, they literally stay along that line of basically tying over the lifetime. It doesn't make a difference. The max odds do not make a difference. In short sessions, you'll win a ton, and you'll also lose a ton. Those bets are invisible. Effectively, it's nice that you get the free bet, but it's a tie. That's a guaranteed tie. So anyway, I can talk about that forever. All right. 40 Crap says it's coin flip. Oh, that you're talking about the one strategy, right? And I hear you there. It's an interesting. The one is an interesting strategy. It's one to me that deserves talking about because it's easy to understand what's happening out there, easy to see the bets, and I think it's an interesting play. Again, not for me, but it's an interesting play, and I'm having fun watching Ken roll it through. Alrighty, next one is the letter N. Again, all games negative EV. The reality of that, we've got to get through that. The number nonsense of, and this is for me like the people that are predicting what numbers are coming, right? The number betting on certain numbers, it's nonsense, right? Nonverbal tells in poker. This might be the N of poker, right? But there's nonverbal tells from dealers, by the way, and from players. So if you're the kind of person that's looking at it at a weak dealer, there's a nonverbal tell, right? Nosebleed plays, the high stakes play, which is in a different world to be in, right? I think than most of us probably live in. Interesting stuff. And of course, we'll talk about the naturals. The O, optimal strategies. Is there such a thing, right? Again, go back to Waylon here, right? Is the one or something like that optimal? Granted, there's a lot of vague with it, right? But in reality, you're pretty much right here, right? That that odds of winning that 4 or 10 with that big payout mitigates so much on the backside of that thing, right? There's goodness in there, right? Is it optimal to play that way, or is it optimal to get out a little quicker and not need that extra home run? I think it's very interesting. So that, again, it deserves talking. Over betting. I think that a lot of DIs fall into this one. Over betting your skill, over betting the count, over betting lots of things can happen. Over betting sports, right? Understanding outliers and how to analyze them, and understanding how odds are really calculated. Remember, we talked about this before. Odds of winning versus probability of an outcome, two different things. And people confuse those all the time. I've seen people talk about the odds of something as the probability, as a reason to play a certain bet, and they're completely wrong about it. It's two completely different concepts. Mathematically speaking, it's different. The odds of a 4 or a 10 rolling versus the probability of a 4 or 10 beating the 7, completely different. And I'll guarantee you there's about 2 people in chat who know the answer. Right now, put it out there. You'll get a clap from me. If you know the difference, what is the probability of a 4 or 10 rolling versus the odds of it beating the 7? I've taught this many times, right? So if you watch my show, you know the answer, but put it out there. If you think you know the answer, put it out there. You have to know that. You have to know that as a gambler. If you don't know the basics of that, you're going to be in a lot of trouble making bets that you don't really understand. And I think a lot of people do that for sure. No 9, right? There's the Frank from New Jersey hard 9, the no 9 dice set, Frank's hard 9. Yeah, it's a whole thing. The 9 should be a thing. I think the 9 is actually. And actually the M we should have a mid-mo yo. Actually do that for me. I'm going to do it myself. Actually, skill do it. Do hashtag M mid-mo yo, because I want to make sure we get that into the thing. Dr. S says, oh, out of sight, out of mind. Love it. Love it. All right. So for the P, we've got, again, there it is. So there's the other side of it, the probability calculation. That's the opposite of odds, right? Pressing and power pressing, parlays, patterns. Patterns can fall into bet patterns, how we place our bets. It could also fall into the idea of patterns in terms of what you see happening. You know, bank, 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 player, player, player. That's a pattern. Is that a thing that you can bet on? Do patterns occur naturally, or they think you can predict, right? Poker, psychology, profit targets, and patience are a big thing. Roll 4 or 10, same as the 7. I'm saying one or the other, not both. So just the 4 versus the 7. So if it's just, what is the probability of a 4 beating a 7, or the odds of a 4 beating a 7? What's the probability of the 4 showing? That's the 2 questions. That's your math homework today. The probability of the 4 rolling and the odds of a 4 beating a 7. That's the question. All right. That's my P's. The Q's are hard. Q's are tough because, you know, and some of these letters are actually kind of hard to do, but Q looks like this: quitting, quality versus quantity, which is a great DI conversation. This might fall into the ABCs of craps, not the ABCs of gambling, but quality versus quantity in terms of shooting, right? We start talking about DI and competitive shooting, right? Quality. Believe me, I've rolled 25 rollers that have 2 box numbers in it. It's a bullshit roll. Good for me with the 25, got my hat, no money got made, right? There's a difference there, right? Making quick decisions. And by quick decisions, I mean you making a decision. Also, that comes into playing games that have quick decisions. Like, in other words, if you're a perfect blackjack strategy player, right? The house edge there goes down to 0.25%. You're basically playing blackjack becomes a coin flip, right? If you can count cards and are playing an accountable game, you can gain a little bit of an advantage, maybe a 10% advantage or a 1% or 2% or 3% advantage in blackjack. When you have the advantage, you're now the casino. You have the edge, not them. What you want is what they want, which is quick decisions. You want as many outcomes per hour as you can get. That's why blackjack is an exploitable game for a counter, right? When you have an edge, you want 100 hands an hour. You don't want 40 hands an hour. You're not going to play, you're not going to card count at a break-in casino where you're going to get 40 hands an hour. Your edge goes away because it bleeds out with the time. That makes sense? Okay. Qualifying hands. Talking more about poker here. qualifying shooters. Again, talking more about craps there. All right, there's that. Now we go to the last letter of today. I think the last letter for today is going to be this R. And I want you to stick around. I got a really special thing to share with you at the end of the show. So stick around for that. The R, Skill and Luck's favorite word, regression. We can talk about what risk of ruin really is, how we calculate it, how it can manifest in your life. Risk profiling, rules variations, especially when it comes to blackjack, but other games have different variations of rules that really affect things, right? We'll talk about what the RTP really means, the return to player. How does the RTP work in a slot machine? I have good information on that. How RNGs actually work. And again, rule adjustments and your adjustments to rule variations is what that really also means. So that's the R. So we got tomorrow. We'll cover the rest of the alphabet, and they will know kind of where we're headed here. And again, I think the more I go through this, the more I feel like we can definitely hit the ABCs of other games, because there's enough in there. There's enough stuff in there for specifically craps or poker or blackjack that I think we can do a full alphabet on all the games all at the same time. So yeah, 40 craps, right? The odds of a 4 rolling, 8.33%, right? It's 3 out of 36. That's an easy one. Calculating the odds, or the probability rather, of the 4. The odds of a 4 beating a 7 is a more complicated concept. And the answer to that question is actually 33%. Okay. And I don't think people really understand how that works. Okay. But it's the thing. You have to understand why that's such a higher than you think it is. It's not 50-50. A lot of people think it's 50-50. That you're down 50%, 6-3 means you're upside down 50%, 2-1 underdog. It's different. The percentage is 33, which I think you go, what the fuck's he talking about? It's the truth. But if you don't know that and how to calculate that, how can you go into a game playing a strategy that relies on the number to come without knowing how much it comes, right? And there's the answer, 66 versus 33, right? You have to understand how that actually works, right? Before you go into it thinking that you're a 2-1 dog or a 2-1 favorite, you're not. There's a difference in the way these numbers work, right? So anyway, those are the kind of things that I want to dive into with the series and get into a little bit, right? I don't want to get into calculus, but I want to get into some basic stuff, all right? I think, R for random, right? Yes, they are, by the way. The way that I understand how the machine works now, it definitely is random. It feels like it's not random, but it is random. It just is. And what they randomize is how hard the dice get hit and the angle of the table. That's what they randomize. So as you can't see it a lot, but when the RNG runs in a bubble crash machine, it actually changes the tilt of the thing in a very slight way, and it changes the speed, the distance from the bottom of the thing where the piston is, and how hard the piston goes. So it might be like an inch, 2 inches, 3 inches away, and you go at speed 1 through 10. All that's randomized, and that's how the dice are guaranteed to flip and flop the way they do. So anyway, it is a random game. It just doesn't feel like it's very random. I end up flipping off the bubble crash machine every time I play it, multiple times. So I know it's hunting me down, but it's not. All right, here it is. I'm going to leave you with this inspirational quote today, and I want to read this to you. I'll leave it up there as long for you to read it yourself. This came, and I got to preface this. I'm lucky that I saw this actually, because when Charlie Kirk got assassinated, I quit Facebook. I quit all social media. I quit all social media a couple years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, except for Facebook, because I was keeping in touch with friends. But like Twitter and all that, I got rid of everything. When that happened, I got off of Facebook because Facebook got super toxic really fast. It was horrible. So I stopped, but I still get the emails, right? So I get this email that says, it was from Ed Robinson. He put out a post, and I read the first line of the post in the email. I'm like, I gotta go read that. Click the link, and I read the post, and I'm like, oh my God. I actually called Ed yesterday. It's like, Ed, I want you to know that you had an impact on my Sunday. I wanted you to know that. So here's what Ed posted on Facebook, and I want you to read this with me. He posted this before COVID, but it's relevant every year. He says, it's that season. The day is close. We hustle and bustle, party, gather, enjoy family, friends, gifts for all, not to mention Santa. Do we stop for a moment and give thanks? It's hard. We all know the story, taught to us from our younger days. And as always, there was a Christmas play, and someone had to play the innkeeper, that poor innkeeper, whose legacy in the story of Christ's birth is far worse than it probably was. In fact, The innkeeper is not mentioned in Scripture, just that there was no room at the inn. And it made me think today about our heart. Is there room? Is there room in our hearts for Christ today? For you see, we are that innkeeper portrayed in those childhood plays. We are the innkeeper of our heart. Do you or I have room? Will we give Christ a place to stay with us this Christmas? I pray that we do. This country needs Christ in all our hearts. And that was in 2019, and it's no more true than it is today. So there it is. That's from Ed. I want to come back a screen and just thank Ed for sharing that with the world. That was purely him. Beautiful sentiment. I read that yesterday and thought, my God, I needed to read that. Right, I needed to read that. So thanks, Ed, for sharing that. I'm going to share that again tomorrow, and I'll put that out there as a post on my on the post feed. I just think it's a beautiful sentiment. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. God bless everybody. Y'all have a great day. Love y'all. I'll see you tomorrow, and that'll be it for the week. So peace out. Love y'all. Bye.